Welcome, trainers, to the PokeSphere. We're your destination for in-depth Pokemon news, community discussions, and editorial content. We're passionate about this franchise, and we're here to share our insights and connect with fellow fans. So let's talk Pokemon. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing the newest updates to Pokemon Home, where by completing the certain decks, you are given shiny rewards. Now, I'm of a now. There's been a lot of opinions that have been going back and forth on this. I'm of a certain mindset. My co-hosts are of others, and so we're going to discuss this particular topic. So recently, Pokemon Home has been giving shiny Pokemon rewards based on dex completion. And on February 14th, we received the next wave of updates for this, where we can get a shiny Caldeo and a shiny Melmetal. Now, this was met with a lot of people really happy to see that we're getting shiny Pokemon as rewards. However, I kind of looked into this a little bit more, and I personally found some stuff just kind of not sitting well with me. For example, in order to get your shiny Caldeo, you would need to complete the Galar Pokedex, as well as the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra Pokedexes, respectively. And to get shiny Meltan, you have to complete the dex for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. Now, this isn't just the Kanto dex. They must be native from that game. And that's kind of where I find the rub. So for people like me, I skipped certain Pokemon games that have been released on Switch because I, like many other fans, or longtime fans, have a Living Dex. And so I've already caught all these Pokemon. I didn't feel the need to purchase Pokemon Let's Go or Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. However, with these new rewards, it kind of makes it so that if I want these shiny Pokemon, I have to buy these games. And I have to invest in time playing these games that I have already played once before in its initial iteration. And so that's kind of where my mindset is for this.
So, in reality, it doesn't actually bother me too much. Yeah, I'm sort of in the position where I can afford to buy all the games should I need to, but one of the main things about these games, or well, the Pokemon games in general, is trading. And, with some work and a bit of time, you can do all of these through home. Yeah, you'll have to pay for the premium subscription, but that's a lot cheaper than going out to buy games. If you've got friends who have the games you don't have, you can trade games with them for a bit, get what you need, trade back, and you're sorted. So you don't necessarily have to buy the games. And the whole thing about the Living Dex is, I mean, we choose to build the Living Dexes. So I mean, just for myself, for example, I've got a Living Dex and I've got all the Dexes in home completed. Even then, in and of itself takes time, and it's still doable because I traded through home for a lot of Pokemon to finish the first initial national Dex to get the Pokeball Magearna. So I don't really see too much of an issue with it. I mean, the only issue that I have is they're giving a shiny Meltan instead of a shiny Melmetal. And unless something has changed and I missed it, the only way to evolve Meltan is in Pokemon Go. So you might never turn that shiny Meltan into a shiny Melmetal.
I agree with Chase on that part. Well, I agree Meltan part for sure. That's true because like Meltan was literally like announced and like only catchable technically. It's like you're giving us this objective in Let's Go, which I will not be doing either myself because I did buy Let's Go Eevee, I did not have fun playing that game. I don't know. I played it for like 2-3 hours and I was like, yeah, I'm done. This isn't what I was expecting out of Pokemon game for the Switch, you know? Like it has its charm. I love its visuals, but I cannot play it like this. It's just weird for me. So I'm definitely never getting a shiny Melmetal unless somebody wants to trade me on home. And yeah, it does kind of suck that it's not a shiny Melmetal that they're giving. I mean, I think they did give us like an event Melmetal, right? The one that can Gmax, I think. But I mean, like that's not a shiny. I mean, that would have been great if that was shiny. I do also think that I kind of like this objective a little of a dex thing to get these shiny mythicals. Like I stated earlier, I did get the shiny Keldeo recently, and I love that. That was great. Right now, I think I need to work on getting the shiny Enamorus. I think I'm down like maybe 10 Pokemon for that native dex for Hisui. I think like half of those are the base time warp Pokemon, so that's gonna be a little bit annoying to get. And yeah, I mean, getting shiny mythicals is like really great. Like I'm still open for like native decks. I can get a shiny Victini, you know, that'd be pretty cool. I would love that. But I think it's a good way to get the fans back into playing those games again. It feels a little bit scummy because they would have to buy the games technically in order to fill up those dexes, you know, like especially if you want to get like the Sword and Shield one, right? Like you gotta fill up the Galar dex and you gotta fill up the decks from the DLCs. And then having those like locked behind the DLCs and not just the video games is a little bit scummy, but I don't know.
See, that's my point of it, though. I mean, Jason and I both have collected our Pokemon. We have our dexes. We've put the grind in to get those Pokemon. They don't count. We have to catch them in the actual new games. And I think that's kind of where I'm having the issue because we're not given a choice if we want to collect those specific shinies. And granted, this doesn't affect everybody because not everybody cares about shiny Pokemon. But for collectors,
Yeah.
for people who are looking for good trade value, even though you can't trade over the GTS these Pokemon most likely, to have them is still that some people really want to go for, and now they've got to shell out the money to buy these games, carve out time to play these games and collect everything. And we're already talking about a game that's what 3-4 years old on in some cases. And I skipped BDSP because, again, I played the original Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. I caught all my Pokemon from Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. I have the dex to prove it, and yet now I'm being, if I want to get shiny out of that, I am forced to go catch the dex. Like, I don't see it as a bad thing for PLA because I played it, I own it, I have yet to complete it, but it gives me something to go back to because I haven't completed it yet. There's still things about that game that I haven't finished and I kind of want to go back to, but I just haven't had the time. But to force me to go back to an older game, to a remake, to complete that dex a second time, for me, that's the line. And I think it sucks that Game Freak is forcing players to do this. It doesn't really affect new players. It affects more of us older players who skip those games. If you're enjoying the content, let us know down below. Be sure to share, like, subscribe. Also, follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky.
So maybe it might be an idea to shift perspective. So maybe look at it through my eyes, for example. All of these Pokemon on the list, well, of the new shiny list, the only ones that haven't been released shiny is Enamorus. And for someone like me who lives in a country where we have never had a shiny mythical or a shiny Pokemon, local Pokemon event, we would have never been able to get these outside of trades anyway. So this opens up another avenue for players like us to now get these. Yeah, there is extra work involved, but now we're not feeling as left out anymore.
I don't think any of the Pokemon on this list have ever been released shiny.
I think it would have to be like all soft resets, I think, if anything at all. Jeez. Soft resetting back in the old days just to get shiny stuff is...
That's also another thing that now that you bring up Go as well. Like if you play Go, you can catch, I don't know if they've done shiny mythical raids yet, because I know there was Mew, I think there was Celebi, I think you also get Jirachi as a shiny. But anyway, irrespective, like my point still stands is like we've never been given these distribution events.
On that we agree. It's a great way for people who may have missed an event or something to get Pokemon that they normally would not have been able to get. My issue is that they are specifically locking it behind a game. So you have a Living Dex and you've already completed your Dex. You have all of the Sinnoh region. instead of just giving you the credit for already catching them, they're forcing you to play or trade for Pokemon out of the new games natively to be able to acquire that shiny, as opposed to, hey, cool, you've got the entire Sinnoh, here's your shiny. Thanks for putting in the work already, here's your shiny. So it doesn't punish people who have already done it, is my argument.
I get what you're saying, but they also can't make it that easy, because there needs to be some degree of difficulty in getting these. Okay, apart from Meltan can go and sit and eat sand for a minute. But the rest of them, there needs to be some degree of difficulty. They can't just be, oh, okay, you've already finished the national deck, so you've got all of this in a Pokemon already. We'll just give this to you for free.
The reward is an accomplishment for completing the decks. That's my point, is you've already done the work. This is just to incentivize people who haven't to do it, to get these if they really want them. And I understand Pokemon needs to make money. This just kind of feels like a really crappy way of trying to generate that revenue.
I mean, the thing is now, and we live in a society where sysbots are a thing and they exist for all of the games. Even if you're just borrowing a friend's copy of the game, you can literally knock it out in like a day or two.
Ironically, I don't have anybody else who plays Pokemon, so I would have to go out and purchase the game.
Well, it's not my fault you don't have friends that play Pokemon. You do have a brother that plays Pokemon, though.
Yes, but we live almost 1,500 miles apart.
Actually, I have a question. Like, this is all like coding, right? Like something that like who worked on Pokemon Home again? Was it Ilka? Like, I feel like, yes, maybe they would have to go through a lot of coding, but I don't see why they can't just like put in the coding from like, oh, these Pokemon were from the original Gen 4 games. We should, let that count towards like this Dex goal, right? But other than that, it's like even if they let's say they do that, right? Maybe this is like maybe in the future or something they'll have ports for like the DS games, the GBA games, right, onto like the Switch 2 or something, and maybe they'll have like a whole brand new like shiny Pokemon, like, hey, if you get these Pokemon from the Gen 4, I mean the DS era games that are ported onto the stuff, maybe it'll still count your your original like DS cartridge game. You'll get this shiny Pokemon, like, I mean, maybe it sucks to you in order to get like the shiny what is the one for BDSP? The shiny, you get a shiny Manaphy. Okay, for sure. Maybe you have to do the BDSP version to recatch everything, right? Like, I feel like maybe that's what they're doing. Like maybe they're just gonna drop ports on us at one point, and they're like, hey, complete the decks on these ports, and then you get this shiny Pokemon too. And it's so like I feel like maybe Ilka can just like should have work some coding around there, like people who already do have like the living decks in their stuff. Maybe they do have the decks or the Pokemon from originally from like the the DS era games, GBA era games, etc., so that like they also count towards that shiny Pokemon that they just dropped. Like, so let's put it this way: you lock it behind a paywall kind of thing, of like behind the game to get these shiny Pokemon. It's like, okay, first off, I'm pretty sure Pokemon Company, your biggest target audience that you want are still like children. So like, you think children have enough money to buy the newest game, buy these remakes, And like, second, like, besides the children that you're targeting, your audience is like maybe made up of at least 50% like your original fans from like back in the day, like when you drop red, blue, green. So it's the customer loyalty, or especially for like the long-term customers, right? Come on now, give us a little more some.
Okay, so instead of just outright giving the shinies to people who already have, full living dexes or whatever, just to make the playing ground a bit more even, you give some sort of reward. So maybe depending on the dexes that you've got completed from the older games, you get to pick a mythical from that region that'll have a 1-of-1 mark that doesn't appear anywhere else. And when you throw it out, it has maybe some kind of particle to go along with it. Because that's also one thing I miss from Sword and Shield, the differences in shiny sparkle. So you got the normal ones and you got the square ones.
Oh yeah, the square shiny. So I remember that.
But the problem with that, though, is now you're punishing people. Just like I view this as Game Freak punishing players for having a living dex, that would be punishing players for not being around during the original run of the games. Because, I mean, look, we're old. I hate to tell you this, but we're old. And
well, speak for yourself, Dragon Man.
And I mean, my niece just turned 11, and she's now getting into gaming, and she's starting to get into Pokemon more and more. And so, like, it would be punishing her for not being alive during the time of, Ruby and Sapphire, Platinum and Diamond and Pearl. And my thing is that if you're going to reward for someone for doing the work, don't punish those that already did the work.
Well, sir, I think we've reached a bit of an impasse, because I could say the same to you. Why must I be punished for not living in America or Australia or the UK?
And you're right. You shouldn't be. Again, Pokemon has a crap ton of money. Why weren't there more availability to you? And mind you, I flew to Japan during the time where they were giving away 20 Pokemon, and I could not take part of this because the event was for the weekend that I was not in the country. And at the time, systems were region locked, which means I couldn't even take part of the one that was happening at the Pokemon Center when I walked in the doors. And I tried, I asked, and they felt really, really bad that they had to tell me that there's no way to get those Pokemon in my game because of the region locks at the time. So I feel you, I understand you, but this is also why I have the viewpoint I do.
Maybe it's just I don't actually care that much about it, because in reality, I had these things finished before the announcement, just the completionist in me, so I was going to do it regardless.
Yeah, I'm gonna start doing this going forward now. I mean, ever since they dropped like the shiny Meloetta, I was like, yeah, I think from now on I'm gonna have to start catching these. I gotta start filling out the Pokédexes of like these like game native Pokemon too. I think I mean, it does feel like something though when you do catch all of them. Like I have like in my Pokemon home, right? Like I have these boxes set up just for those native like game dexes now. So, like, if I ever have to start a new game, or if I ever feel like starting a new game anyways, it's like, oh, okay, well, I can just 100% complete my decks now.
I really got myself into, obviously completing the Pokedex. My first time ever doing it was in Sword and Shield. That was the very first time I actually completed the Pokedex, like a national dex. So I wouldn't really understand the game of, like, collecting all the shinies. I love shiny Pokemon, but it was my first time of doing the whole Pokedex. But I get what you mean. If I see a shiny Zygarde, I'll definitely have it. I love shiny Zygarde. Like, why now? Because the last time I remember we had like a shiny mythical was back in Sword and Shield, the Isle of Armor, with shiny Zeraora, if you remember that one.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty cool. And it's like, why are they releasing like the Meltan now? Like, why can they just like release the shiny Meltan when Meltan was like announced? It's bizarre decision making when they do it later on in date, because obviously they were shiny locked for so long, so no one could actually access them before, when they were leaked or like they were announced, but you can never get it. The only way you could actually get it is through cheat. But it's just weird that they're doing it now. Obviously something's obviously they're hyping up for the next game. They're probably going to do this again for the next game, definitely. But that is my take,
Them sort of trying to build hype does sort of make sense, because like Pokemon Day is on Thursday, and we're probably getting Legends EA for this holiday season. The Switch 2 is probably going to be tied into that, I think, with like a special edition. So it probably all fits into a bigger plan, but...
Yeah, and then once again, granted, they are doing another like shiny unlock event kind of thing for Legends EA when that drops. Once again, that is locked behind another game that you have to purchase in order to get that shiny, So it's like, okay, well.
An absolute pain. So I get that frustration.
I can understand why Nintendo would be doing this, because think about it. Pokemon makes money, and there are a lot of shiny collectors out there who never got the chance to get certain shinies. And so the fact that none of these Pokemon, with the exception of 2 on this list, have ever been released shiny for shiny collectors, like I said, in my eyes, it's kind of punishing those who have already done the work to collect the decks anyway. Now they've got to do it again. Although, to be fair, that shiny Manaphy is still a lot easier to collect than it originally was.
What if this is all gearing up to a Pokemon-focused virtual console? Because the only Pokemon games that have been released on for like the virtual consoles, if you want to call them that, have been the Ranger games. And I don't know about Coliseum and XD.
Those haven't been yet. This year's been really weird with the fact that we haven't had any news. So who knows what we're going to be seeing this year. The connectivity of some of those older games into home or lack thereof. The fact that the original 2 Pokemon stadiums have no connectivity whatsoever to home or to any of the existing Pokemon games, that kind of that was a bit of a sore spot with a lot of people, because it basically made those games practically unplayable.
No, so what I mean is just like a virtual console just has the mainline games on it. So they might sell it as a bundle, let's say 3 for $60 or whatever it is. Because we're still missing Gen 2, Gen 3, Gen 5, Gen 6, and Gen 7. So that's 5 generations of Pokemon we're missing on the Switch. Gen 6 is going to come this year with PLZA.
Yeah. I think if anything, though, for at least the Gen 7, right? That's probably not going to... I feel like that's probably not going to show up for like a good amount of years. But there are people like me are expecting Gen 5 remakes to happen as well, so I'm still waiting for those. And yeah,
it will make sense. It will make sense if that will be released. Like, let's have a Pokemon collection of like Gen 5 or Gen 2 next year, because it is the 30th anniversary next year.
I think that's when we're going to see Gen 10, personally.
Or both, maybe.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
What better way to hype up Gen 10 by, hey guys, let's get some of the older games ported now. Let's go, yeah. Play on these games before Gen 10 drops in that November of that year, like, who knows?
Yeah, but moving back to my original point, my whole shtick on this is that now what Nintendo and Game Freak are kind of doing is they're kind of saying, hey, old players, people who've been around for 30 some odd years playing this game, well, I mean, look, we've got a shiny little carrot over here for you, but you have to buy the game you've already played back when you were younger all over again. Play it. And some people get it for the nostalgia factor. Some people want to play for the changes.
Just me.
But again, it just all circles back to, it just feels like Nintendo's really pushing hard to monetize this as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because I'm now looking at picking up a game that I never thought I'd be picking up.
I think it's more than likely just to put everyone on an even playing field.
I mean, if that's the case, then why allow transfers from bank to home? The whole thing is that, we're of different minds and different opinions on how this is being treated. What I want to hear from is from our viewers who made it this far. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it's fair that anyone who's already put in the legwork completing the decks is getting snubbed because Game Freak and Nintendo decided that you have to purchase or rent or borrow the new games and complete the decks via that way to get these shiny Pokemon? Like, what are your thoughts? Let us know down below.
And if you made it this far in the video, add the words shiny loft to your comment.
Why are they... I don't understand. What's the flipping purpose of locking shinies? I don't get it.
I don't know. It's pushing into the direction of, hey, look, you want a shiny, you have to do these, you have to jump through these hoops and buy this game and purchase this service. It's been a slow, steady movement to this. About it for a while now.
It used to be a marketing stunt for the movies. I know we haven't even had a Pokemon movie for a long time.
It's been a bit. And with that brings the episode to a close. What are your thoughts? Let us know down below. Also, be sure to share, like, subscribe. Let us know how we're doing. Also, once again, be sure to follow us on Twitter or Blue Sky and check out our Discord. And as always,
see you in the next video.